Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We are 4 hours away from the United States government shutting down. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It would be the first government shutdown in 6 years. If it does happen, the shutdown will affect numerous functions of the government. But what will the effect be on members of the military and their families? KPBS reporter John Carroll took a look.
San Diego is home to more than 110,000 active duty service members. That's in addition to many military family members and more than 240,000 veterans. So a government shutdown is a big deal to a lot of locals.
We know it's already way too hard for our service members and their families to make ends meet in San Diego.
Representative Sarah Jacobs serves on the House Armed Services Committee. She says even without a government shutdown, life is tough for a lot of military families in San Diego.
45,000 members of military families and veterans visit the food bank every month before a shutdown.
Jacobs was joined on a Zoom news conference today by two other Democratic members of the San Diego delegation, Representatives Scott Peters and Mike Levin. So what could happen to military salaries should the shutdown happen? First off, active duty troops, including reserve personnel on federal active duty, would be required to continue to report for duty, but their paychecks would stop until a new funding deal is reached. They would receive back pay after a shutdown ends. District 49 Representative Mike Levin is one of just a handful of Democratic co-sponsors of the Pay Our Troops Act of 2026, which would continue appropriations for the military in the event of a government shutdown. But, of course, if Congress isn't in session due to a shutdown, the bill can't be voted on.
We absolutely want to make sure that they get the pay that they've earned. We want to make sure that they're able to live comfortably, and we're working very hard on housing and on child care.
Unlike the Defense Department, most Veterans Affairs offices are funded a year in advance, so benefits processing, medical centers, and other support services are expected to continue operating. All three representatives made it clear that they're still in Washington, ready to work on a deal, while they said most of their Republican colleagues are not. The Senate is still in session. Members of the military and other government workers will be paid tomorrow. That money was already in the pipeline. But beyond that lies uncertainty about what comes next and when. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And this government shutdown comes at a precarious time for the U.S. labor market. In a few minutes, we'll take a look at how the shutdown could impact your bottom line.
Weather headlines here as we head throughout the next couple of days. Overall, high pressure. This high pressure system is going to continue to dominate the forecast here as we head throughout the next couple of days. So that means sunny skies and just overall mild conditions. It is going to stay dry. It will be breezy here for the rest of the week, but I will have an updated look at that extended forecast heading into the weekend coming up.
The San Diego City Council has delayed voting on a series of increases to water and sewer rates. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more on what's behind the proposal.
The biggest factors driving the rising cost of water in San Diego come back to drought. The city and county have committed to big investments in reliability, namely the Carlsbad desalination plant and the city's nascent water recycling program. Those projects have gotten more expensive due to rising energy and labor costs. Councilmember Kent Lee says that's the unavoidable truth.
The cost of the water that we buy has gone up significantly. If we choose not to raise our rates, the city, not the county water authority or any other entity, the city will have to pay for that cost. One way or another, the impact will ultimately be on our residents.
The Public Utilities Department had proposed the first rate increase in January, with 3 more increases each year through 2029. After that last rate increase, water would be 62.5% more expensive than it is today. Councilmember Sean Elo Rivera said he acknowledges the high cost of running the system, but thinks the cost shouldn't fall solely on ratepayers. He asked for an analysis of other measures to generate revenue, like leasing out the water department's properties and reservoirs for solar and battery projects.
And that analysis should also outline the way that that potential revenue, if generated, could provide relief to working families, locally owned small businesses, and seniors who would feel the benefits the most.
The council asked the Public Utilities Department to come up with alternatives to the proposed rate increases. The council will take up the issue again on October 28th. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Today is the final day for San Diego residents to select the size of trash and recycling bins they would like. Eligible residents can select their service level by logging into the city's new service portal found at the link on your screen. Based on their selection, they'll be charged a fee ranging from $23 to $29 a month. City crews will begin delivering new bins next Monday, October 6th, and will continue through June 2026. The citizen group that reviews complaints against San Diego County law enforcement can now investigate healthcare providers when people die in custody. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson spoke with advocates who say the policy is a nationwide first.
Advocates say many of San Diego's in-custody deaths result from inadequate health care, lack of access to medications for conditions like substance use withdrawals, diabetes, blood pressure, and seizures, delayed 911 calls, or failure to perform CPR. But until now, the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board, or CLRB, has only been able to investigate the county's own deputies and jail staff.
Over the last couple years, we've had to summarily dismiss many allegations of improper conduct by medical providers. So we weren't even able to investigate it because CLRB didn't have jurisdiction. So a lot of family members felt like they didn't get the answers they were looking for from CLRB.
The County Board of Supervisors' final vote Tuesday changes that for when people die in custody.
This is a day that's very important to impacted families, because now there's no more pointing fingers.
Paloma Serna's daughter, Elisa, died in a San Diego County jail in November 2019. Since then, over 80 more people have died in the county's custody.
It's like deja vu every time I hear another case, another life lost in custody.
Diana Sanchez's daughter, Vienna Granillo, died in the same jail 3 years ago.
My daughter did ask for help. She did let the nurses and the deputies know that she was suffering from withdrawals from fentanyl.
Sanchez says there has to be accountability for both deputies and healthcare providers.
They can't bring my daughter back, but they can change that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
In a memo, Sheriff Kelly Martinez wrote that civilians conducting these kinds of investigations could have a, quote, chilling effect on the jail healthcare system. Only Supervisor Jim Desmond voted against the proposal, citing the same concern. County documents say CLRB plans to hire healthcare experts to help with these investigations. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, the federal government barrels toward a shutdown with lawmakers still at odds. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
President Trump, along with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, today addressed a gathering of almost every general, admiral, and senior enlisted leader in the military. KPBS reporter Andrew Dyer says it puts military leaders in a difficult position.
At Quantico today, senior military officials flown in from around the globe heard Hegseth and Trump lay out their policies and plans for the military for nearly 2 hours. What were maybe intended to be applause lines landed flat.
To our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you.
The Defense Secretary announced several policy reforms, including a review of military harassment policies. A series of memos published after the speech raised the criteria required to launch investigations into misconduct. In his previous job as a Fox News host, Hegseth used his platform to rail against the military for prosecuting service members accused of war crimes. Now he says the rules of engagement are stupid.
We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement.
I'm not quite sure what Mr. Hegseth means by getting rid of the stupid rules of engagement. I don't know.
Don King is a military attorney in San Diego. The retired Navy captain has served as staff attorney for admirals and as a military judge. He says as secretary, Hegseth has the final say on those rules. President Trump told the brass to be ready to deploy to American cities. King says those orders put military leaders in a difficult position because, according to federal law, the military can't be used for domestic law enforcement.
Our troops are trained very well to follow orders that are lawful. And the difficulty here is that the tradition with the military is that we don't fight Americans. We don't take up arms against Americans.
How the military responds if deployed into U.S. cities depends on Trump's legal justifications. He says troops have the right to refuse unlawful orders, but domestic deployments could create chaos.
The risk of great chaos all the way through the ranks, I think, is very great. So it concerns me, and it should concern every American.
Trump says undocumented people living in the U.S. are enemies and that the country is under invasion from within. He says once the military is involved in fighting them, things won't get out of control. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
The federal government appears headed toward a shutdown. This one could be different for Americans' money than those before it. Karen Kafa looks at how the timing and the playbook could impact your wallet.
In the recent past, a shutdown of the federal government hasn't put too much of a long-term dent in the overall U.S. economy.
The reality is that it would not typically have a lasting impact on the economy, but it can be extremely detrimental for individuals.
Those individuals, typically government workers, furloughed without pay until the shutdown ends. But with a sputtering labor market, Mark Hamrick, senior economic analyst at Bankrate, warns this time it could be different.
This is a precarious time, and in some ways, given the fact that the U.S. economy has been seen currently or recently at an inflection point, having the lack of visibility on the job market is extremely inopportune.
A government shutdown would delay the release of the Labor Department's monthly jobs report this upcoming Friday, which informs economists, businesses, and even the Federal Reserve about the state of the economy. Laura Ulrich, director of economic research for Indeed, says adding more uncertainty could further slow the economic engine.
We certainly see that when times are uncertain, people have a harder time making decisions, so that slows down economic activity that we see amongst consumers, but also amongst businesses. And so this is just one more thing to add to that list of items that are making the economy a bit uncertain at this point.
Potentially keeping the jobs market stuck. The Trump administration also warning there could be permanent cuts to the federal workforce if a shutdown occurs, putting more job hunters on the market. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Headlines these days are scary. Troops in U.S. cities, an assassination of a popular conservative activist, subsequent calls for civil war, free speech threats, armed, masked agents conducting ICE raids, runaway food, health care, and housing costs. The daily din of bad news can feel like an assault even to the most steeled among us. KPBS's Amita Sharma joins us now with how it can also harm our health. Welcome, Amita.
Good to be with you, Maya.
I have talked to so many people about how the news cycle has affected their health and how exhausting it can be. What can you tell us about how that impacts us?
Well, there's no big news flash here, Maya. People feel beaten down. Physically, chronic stress, especially over matters we cannot control, A bad boss, traffic, the news spikes the hormone cortisol in our system. Stanford University neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky, who wrote the book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, says that natural response to danger helps us react to threats. Imagine a zebra being chased by a starving lion in the wild. The difference is the zebra's stress is short-lived. It escapes or gets eaten. But Sapolsky says humans are perpetually living in anxiety, which knocks us out of balance, triggering stress-related illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease. He says our stress also reduces our empathy, tolerance, and our willingness to see another person's perspective. I spoke with UC Irvine nursing and psychology professor Allison Holman. She says repeated exposure to news about national tragedies like the Boston Marathon bombing or the Orlando nightclub shooting can actually cause collective trauma.
Symptoms of early post-traumatic stress symptoms. So this is things like intrusive thoughts, avoidance, having hypervigilance, feeling like really on edge and hypervigilant.
The reality of everyday political life in America today is that we are divided, and this polarization is also having an effect. Holman says people have more mental health issues after political turbulence, such as the January 6th insurrection. Polarized elections have also been shown to increase cortisol levels. Holman says worry over the 2020 election was linked to a 12% greater chance of new ailments, and it was higher for Republicans than for Democrats, meaning there were worse health consequences for the party that lost. There are also findings on how racism and political marginalization affect people. After the 2016 election, preterm births among Latina women jumped. Local independent voter Hallie DeGroot says she gets so upset by the continuous bad news barrage, she sometimes cries.
It just hurts thinking about what, individual people are going through because of all of these things and the way they're being covered.
DeGroot says she is still not tempted to turn away from the news. She vents to family and friends instead. The 30-year-old is shocked that America is at this point and troubled by what comes next amid what she sees as complacency.
We have gotten so kind of just like docile and complicit with the idea that politicians are politicians and they just run things, so they'll also solve this for us.
But local independent voter Josh Bell believes the news is still not bad enough to jar Americans out of the inertia.
Where there's not a healthy level of stress to really bring out a change, which is the problem.
The flood of heavy headlines have left Bell anxious, fearful, in disbelief, and numb. He's now reassessing whether to remain in the U.S.
The uncertainty, the lack of unity, that it seems to be that the United States is almost crumbling in some sense.
Now, Amitha, we were talking about zebras earlier, and while we cannot live like zebras, is there anything that we actually can do about this?
Well, I'll take it right back to Stanford neuroscientist Sapolsky. He urges people to prioritize their well-being through practicing gratitude, meditation, and exercising. Holman adds that people should monitor how they're feeling when they consume the news. If they feel overwhelmed, they should take breaks, and they should take deep breaths.
That's very good advice. We really appreciate your reporting on this. Thank you, Amitha.
Thank you, Maya.
And this story is part of our Public Matters initiative. You can learn more about it on our website at kpbs.org/Public Matters. Fallbrook leaders are asking the county to consider traffic calming measures near a recently opened park. Village View County Park is on top of a hill, and at certain times of the day, drivers near it may be blinded by the sun's glare. Members of the Fallbrook Planning Group worry that drivers may struggle to see the crosswalk in front of the park. They're asking the county to consider reducing the speed limit.
The speed limit is pretty much the same as it was before the park was there. Now that the park is there, they may want to take a look at reducing the speed limit for a certain section, at least by the park, or maybe the entire road.
The county says the reduced speed limit could be approved as early as next April. Tomorrow, the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and North County Transit are teaming up for Free Ride Day. Participating services include MTS buses and trolleys, as well as the Coaster, Sprinter, and Breeze fixed routes and NCTD Plus on-demand services. The event is also part of California Clean Air Day.
I'm tracking a big change in the weather pattern here as we head throughout the next couple of days. Starting Wednesday into Thursday, this area of high pressure will continue to strengthen and intensify, and this dip in the jet stream is going to keep things clear and dry. Also warmer here across Southern California heading throughout the next couple of days. For tonight, overnight lows will dip into the low to mid 60s. Some low clouds near the coast, but overall pretty nice start there for your early Wednesday morning. Heading into tonight, we'll see overnight lows a mix of 50s and 60s primarily, down to 55 tonight for both Oceanside and Camp Pendleton. Future track radar is showing, yes, there will be some rain chances across central and northern parts of California because of that dip in the jet stream, but overall some low clouds near the coast as the sun comes up, and as we head throughout the day, those coastal clouds will slowly start to recede there off to the west, but we will still be dealing with some of that rainfall there across parts of central and northern parts of California. But overall, looks like it's going to stay dry here in the forecast over the next couple of days. Here's the overall setup for Wednesday. Nice weather here across the four corners, and that will extend here in the southern parts of California. The showers will stay pretty much north of the valley there, Central Valley into northern parts of California. Overall, temperature-wise, we'll see widespread 70s. We'll have some 80s in the forecast as well. So overall, A+ forecast here for your Wednesday. Heading into Thursday, there will be some lingering shower chances, but overall, looks like it's going to stay dry, and things are actually going to start to warm up across parts of the southern plains, so we'll be watching out for that. For that extended outlook for your coastal forecast, if you like sunny skies and highs in the 70s, then you're going to love the weather we're going to be tracking as we head into the weekend. Overnight lows will be a mix of upper 50s to low 60s, so pretty mild weather. Inland forecast, temperatures will be in the 80s for the next couple of days before they dip into the 70s heading into the weekend. Across the mountains, we'll see a mix of 50s and 60s, some slightly cooler weather there on Saturday. And then across the desert, we'll see temperatures in the 90s before dipping into the 80s for the weekend.
Finding the right sport for your child isn't easy. From coaching styles to concerns about injuries, there's a lot to think about. Join Mikey Damron and his son Dorian as they tackle the world of youth sports, ask the tough questions, and search for the right fit together. Here's a first look at Game Time Decision, a new series from KPBS.
I don't know where I would be without youth sports. They provided the foundation for my childhood and helped me become the man I am today. Now I'm the father of a young boy who just started playing sports, and the landscape of youth sports is a lot different from when I grew up. There are more opportunities and more awareness about the risks, but also more pressure and more cost.
Most people think it's just the game. It's not the game. It's the lessons, it's the things that correlate directly to life that sports can provide.
I found out pretty quickly that there was a lot to learn. So I spoke to doctors, coaches, and other experts about the new realities of youth sports and how parents can best properly prepare their kids and themselves for experiences that could have lifelong impacts. I also learned how coaching has changed over the years.
It was a Wild West. Coaches basically could do as much as they could handle. We did 2-a-days every day, and Monday was a 3-a-day.
Now we know so much more about the risk and how to minimize them.
I want the kids to be physically active, right? And I think there's some element of kind of balancing the risks and benefits, because what I don't want them to do is sit at home playing video games, get diabetes, end up with heart disease, and have much worse problems than a bad knee.
There's going to be contact for sure, and different levels as you progress through, we'll have more contact and harder contact actually, and so that's something to prepare our kids for.
I learned that disparities still exist.
The lack of quality coaches a lot of these organizations have. And I don't blame necessarily the organizations for having a lack of quality coaches, because a lot of these organizations don't have the funding to have quality coaches with quality training.
Some parents think, well, if I sign my kids up for a sport when they're 6, then it's going to be super intense and they're going to lose their childhood. Try to make it fun. To help kids learn at an early age that sports, physical activity is something to look forward to, expose them to lots of different sports. Like, try something one season. If they like it, great. If not, then try something else.
Although much has changed since I was a kid, the spirit of youth sports is still strong as ever. As it should be, everybody's youth sports journey is a little bit different, but there's still so much we can learn from each other. So join Dorian and myself as we set out on our own youth sports adventure and make our own game time decision.
And we're very excited about that. That story was produced by KPBS lead video journalist Mikey Damron. The first 2 episodes of Game Time Decision drop tomorrow. You can watch at kpbs.org/gametime. The Padres' backs are up against the wall after dropping their wildcard series opener to the Cubs at Wrigley Field today. The Pods grabbed an early lead with consecutive doubles to begin the 2nd inning, but the Cubs answered with back-to-back home runs in the 5th inning to pull ahead and another score in the 8th for a good measure. Our media partner KGTV was at Bub's at the ballpark in East Village as the Friar faithful cheered the team on.
I think this team's got it. I think it's anybody's ball game, and I think this is the team that can make a really deep run and get through the Cubs.
You know, we root for our Padres hard, and we love them so much, and we know they're going to pull it off.
In MLB history, just 2 teams have ever went on to win a best-of-3 wildcard series after being down 0-1. Luckily, one of those teams is the Padres, who in 2020 rallied to win the series after losing Game 1 to the Cardinals. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.